Welcome everyone to this workshop. It's called Legal Aspect of Forming a New Business. It will be presented by attorney Stephen Gersz, and we will talk a little bit more about him. But in the meantime, I wanted to thank also Laura from the commissary from allowing us to collaborate in this presentation. My name is Irene Sanchez. I'm a legal advocate at the Volunteer Legal Services Project. Our mission is to improve the quality of the low-income residents of Monroe County by ensuring that there is assistance available from skilled volunteer attorneys who can assist you with their legal matters. I will talk a little bit about what we do. We have a micro entrepreneurship program that can assist low-income entrepreneurs to start a business, to develop business, especially in economically distressed neighborhoods. The idea is to provide pro bono legal assistance to assist with choice of entity, contracts, licenses, permit, intellectual property, tax law, insurance law, and other requirements. We also have a not-for-profit pro bono program in case that you know anyone who has a small organizations with limited budget that would like to provide essential services to the community. A little bit more about what we do. We have an upcoming micro-entrepreneurship remote legal clinic. It's going to be on April 7th. It's going to be by appointment only for those who are eligible. And it will be like a short version from us to be able to help with contracts, commercial lease agreements, partnership agreements, and standard term and conditions, and any other form or contracts that you would like attorneys to review. It's very important, as Stephen will be explaining today, that you have a really good foundation to involve an attorney to assist you with this journey. In addition to that, we conduct educational workshops just as this one. We also partner with the City of Rochester and the Lonely Entrepreneur and the Rochester City Biz Fast Track to have, I think if somebody can mute, I think it's Betty. If somebody can help mute her, that'd be great. So the Lonely Entrepreneurship and the Rochester City Biz Fast Track, it will be helping by providing an academy. It will be an entrepreneurship academy to allow you to learn about all these concepts and ask questions to experts, guest speakers who will be participating. So if you would like to join any of those two academy, you can just click on those links, and I will be also adding those links into the chat room as we go through the workshops. We're also going to be hosting other workshops in addition to this one about business exits, legal strategy, intellectual property, and small business tax. So if you're interested in any of that, we're going to be adding an evaluation at the end of this presentation. If you can complete that evaluation and add your information there, we will contact you and let you know what the next activity will be. In addition to that, there is a program called nexusi90.org. It's an ecosystem. So if you would like to look for resources about places that you can go for marketing, or you're looking for other business similar to yours or organizations who can provide assistance with funding, you can look into Nexus I-90 as a way to find one-stop resource page to assist you with your journey. And how can you obtain services from the Volunteer Legal Services Project? Well, one, our client reach out to the VLSP, and you go through the intake process. We ask questions to make sure that you are eligible for the program. And once we complete all the documentation, we can assign you a volunteer attorney who have experience in the type of issues that you're looking for to provide assistance. You can reach out to us by typing legalhelprochester.com. and directly will open up a section for applying online. And also you can visit vlsprochester.org. You can access our application there as well, but also you can access additional information about a program. We also post everything in Facebook and LinkedIn, and you can also call us at 585-232-3051 if you have any questions and would like to open a case with us. Without further ado, because I know you guys are not here to listen me to talk, you guys wanted to hear about Stephen and the amazing work and information that he's going to be providing today. We wanted to thank Stephen from volunteering today. He has graciously offered to facilitate today's workshop. I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that attorneys like Stephen is not getting paid today to facilitate this workshop. This is the goodwill of attorneys like him that allow VLSP to be able to partner and host workshop like this one and assist the community individuals like yourself. So Steven has an immerse himself in business and corporate law his entire legal career. Steve is a partner and a medium past chair of the firm Corporate Business and Practice Group, and has an extensive experience in the organization and development of business and professional entities, mergers, acquisitions, and disposition, equity and debt finances, and federal and state security laws. Steve is an adept at using his expertise in corporate law and his experience in business transaction to find creative solutions in business, dispute, and divorce matters. As both an attorney and community volunteer, Steve is actively involved in healthcare matters. He has represented physicians, medical groups, and other healthcare providers on a wide variety of legal matters. And Steve has received numerous awards and recognition. Just one note, we will be providing all the numbers and links into the chat. If you have any questions throughout this presentation, please just add it to the chat directly. We're going to be allocating some time at the end as well to answer any questions that you might have. So without further ado, take it from here, Steve.
Thank you, Irene, and thank you, Laura, for asking me to help out. I think that it's important community work that both VLSP and the commissary do, and I am pleased to be able to present today to why is this not moving? Oh, present today to help you either get on the right track legally if you're starting a business, or for those of you that are already in business to perhaps nudge you onto a better track. As an attorney, I believe we don't act alone. If you're going to be in business, you need a full support team. And the support team consists of a business attorney, an accountant that is accustomed to dealing with small businesses like yours, an insurance agent to make sure that whatever the insurable risks are of your business, that they are appropriately covered. That would be whether it's equipment or liability issues. And I would say if you're going to be in a food business, whether it's restaurant, catering, or production of bottled or canned foods, there is significant risk in that. And one way you're going to cover the risk is by making sure you have adequate and appropriate insurance coverage. So a qualified business insurance agent will help make sure that you get the right insurance in place. And I also think it's very important that you have a banker right from the get-go. Go into your local branch, introduce yourself to the branch manager, let them know about the business that you are starting, because you're going to need a checking account right away to be able to deposit your revenues and pay your bills. But if you have a relationship with the branch manager, there may be at some point in the future that you need a loan, perhaps to buy some equipment or to expand your business in some other way. And the branch manager will be your champion, your advocate in the banking system to make sure that you have every possible chance to get a loan. I won't spend a lot of time talking about it, but you absolutely should have a written business plan. A business plan helps you know where you're going. And there's an old saying that if you don't know where you want to go, any road will take you there. Don't wander just on any road. Get the most efficient and effective way to do it. And I say that it should be in writing because it's only when you start to put things in writing that you start to see the potential holes, whether they are on the financial side, whether they're on the legal side, whether it's on your marketing plans, etc. But those are the things that you do need to cover. In the beginning of your business, you have a choice of entity, and I've listed out all of the potential choices here. Because a food business has particular risks, don't even think about a sole proprietorship or a general partnership, because in those entities, the owner or owners have unlimited personal liability for the debts, liabilities, and obligations. Professional entities are not available to you. They are only available to licensed professionals. And so we really come down to a choice of two potential entities, and those are corporations or limited liability companies. And I will spend a fair amount of time talking to you about those kinds of entities. Regardless of which type of entity you choose to start your business, whether it's a corporation or a limited liability company, you need to give some thought to business name. And you'll need to clear that name in multiple places. One of the places is in the New York Secretary of State's office, because the New York Secretary of State will not accept for filing a business name that is substantially identical to another business that already is registered as a corporation or an LLC. But there is a fair amount of wiggle room there. So if you want to have your business as Rainbow Catering LLC, the fact that there exists Rainbow Construction or Rainbow Industries will not preclude that name from being filed. But you know, it could be that Rainbow Foods is out there, and it's discretionary whether the Secretary of State thinks Rainbow Foods is substantially similar to Rainbow Catering. The other places that you would need to think about checking are trademarks and website. You're going to, before you pick a business name, you're going to want to make sure that you have a website available to promote your name that is reasonably close to your entity name on the corporate books. And you're going to want to at least do a Google search to see whether there are substantially similar businesses either in your area or nationally. If you're going to do something locally like a restaurant or a catering business, it's probably sufficient that there be no overlap in Monroe County. But if you have designs on a bottled food business or canned food business that is going to be national in scope, you're going to want to understand whether there is some national overlap, because you're going to want to be thinking about trademark registration, and I will, if time allows, talk about that. So I see Laura has posted some information on the commissary in the chat. Your business is going to need an employer ID number. An employer ID number is the equivalent of your personal social security number, but it is a way to identify your business. You can get a federal EIN online. The IRS website has a way for you to quickly and easily get your own EIN. If you are working with a business attorney to set up your corporation or LLC, it's usually part of the job of the attorney organizing your company to help you obtain the federal EIN. Many businesses and particular food businesses can be subject to New York State sales tax. So if you need to collect sales tax, you need to register with New York State as a authorized sales tax vendor. You need to do that according to New York State rules at least 21 days before you open for business. Like a lot of state regulation, sales tax is not a very black and white or very crystal clear area. I always give this example when I'm talking to any business to help you understand how complex it is. If you were opening a bagel bakery and you only sold whole bagels in a bag and you did nothing else, then there is no sales tax on that bagel. It falls into the grocery exemption to sales tax. Once you slice the bagel and put butter or cream cheese or ham and cheese on that bagel, it now becomes a restaurant item and you need to collect sales tax from your customer on that sale of a foodstuff item. And I have numerous examples in other businesses, but those are the clearest examples. The reason you are going to want to make sure you collect and remit sales tax is because sales tax is what New York State calls a trust fund tax. And if you fail to properly collect and remit sales taxes to New York State on your sales, your business is liable, but more importantly than that, you, the business owner, are personally liable for unpaid sales taxes. And that is true even in the context of a corporation or an LLC. You have that personal liability until all of that sales tax is paid. Because it's a trust fund liability, it has the highest duties owed to the government. So your business can file for bankruptcy, you can file for personal bankruptcy, and those trust fund taxes are in a special exemption category that survive bankruptcy. The only way you personally can get out of paying those sales taxes is to either pay them in full, settle up with New York State for a payment program at less than full, or dying. Those are the only ways you can get out of the sales tax liability.
So Steve, I see that you have 2 questions. Would you like to take those now?
Yes.
Great.
So one is switching from a existing sole proprietorship for an LLC. That is easy. One sets up the brand new LLC, and your contribution to the LLC could be cash, but it would be the assets of the LLC, of the sole proprietorship, whether it's equipment that you've purchased, whether it's a customer list, whether it's recipes you've developed, all of those get contributed to the LLC. And then from that day forward, the business is operated by and through the LLC. Of course, you would need to go through and make sure you have the rest of the items set up in the name of the LLC. That would be getting the LLC checking account set up in the name of the LLC with the EIN of the LLC. It would be making sure you have appropriate insurance set up in the LLC. And we'll talk about employment matters, but you'll need to have all of the employment items set up in the LLC. So someone else asks about a business name that seems to only have been associated with a dissolved business in Europe. So yes, I would say if it is clear, it should be available in the United States for both creation of an entity in New York and potentially subject to doing the appropriate research, either a state trademark or a federal trademark. Many businesses are subject to licenses and permits, and these licenses and permits can be at the federal, state, and local level, and sometimes they're at multiple levels, and a food business is no exception. So if your food business was going to be a brew pub and you were going to brew beers on site and then sell them either in a what's called a farm brewery location for consumption on the premises, or for takeout and consumption off the premises, you would need to have at least federal registration for that alcohol business with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. You would have to have New York State registration under what's called the Farm Brewery Act. And if you are going to be serving food in addition to your beer, and the farm brewery requires that you serve at least like chips and pretzels, but you could be, serving burgers, wings, pizza, etc., those things that go great with beer, you would need to have a Monroe County restaurant permit. Similarly with, again, I'm not as familiar, and perhaps you can get this advice from the good folks at the commissary. I'm going to guess you will need at least a Monroe County permit to make food available for consumption, whether it's bottled, canned, frozen, etc. I'm not aware of whether you need a state permit as well. But I do have a citation at the end of my materials to a New York State website that you can go on to help determine what permits and licenses you might need to operate your business. So normally I go through a parade of things that I think about when advising a business. But for a food business, I stop at liability protection. I would say that while all of these other considerations that normally go into choice of entity are important, to me, the decision begins and ends with the huge liability that any kind of food business entails. Again, whether it's catering, restaurant, or production food, the chance of food poisoning and foodborne illness is so great that I don't think any rational person would choose to operate their business in other than an LLC or a corporation. Let's see. Somebody asks, what about a food business of the same name in a different state? You would need to see whether that name has a federal registration, and you can do that. We'll talk a little bit more. One of the quick ways is on their website or on their packaging, do they have a Circle R? Only those with a federal trademark registration are allowed to use the Circle R amount designation. So you would see that if you looked at Kraft Foods, you would see a Circle R on their website. Again, I'm not sure of what local foods there might be, but you would see a Circle R either by their company name or their product name. That should say to you, stop, don't even think about using that. if they don't have the Circle R and they're only operating in another state, assuming you can get a state entity set up in some version of that name, that your Google search says they're not active in New York State, you likely would be clear to use it. But again, helping with business name is one of the things that a VLSP volunteer attorney can help you with. Or if you don't qualify because your income is too large, a paid business attorney would help you with. Someone asked, they filed their LLC, but they need assistance with publishing. So New York State is one of a few states, and we'll talk about this. Well, we might as well talk about it now. And that require a entity to publish to be properly formed. The state law says that if you do not publish in accordance with these rules, your right to conduct business in the state of New York is suspended until you have completed your publication, and you have no access to the courts of the state of New York as in the name of your business until you have completed your publication. Publication means that for 6 consecutive weeks, you have published a notice that has the state required information in it in 2 publications, at least one of which publishes daily and the other one of which publishes at least weekly. If you set up your LLC at the address for service of process, you will get numerous letters from commercial companies offering for you to do that for you for a fixed fee. As a matter of fact, I think they cut deals with the appropriate newspapers so that they get it for less. We actually use an outside company to do it for the companies we form because it's less expensive than having our paralegal jump through all the hoops and do all the steps. And so the fee should be around $400 or $450 all in, both for the cost of publication and for filing the certificate of publication with New York State, which has a $50 filing fee on it. If they're looking to charge a fee greater than that, I'd keep shopping until you found one, or again, use your VLSP attorney or paid business attorney to do that. The process for a food truck, yes, and that the cost of publication is in addition to the $225 that you paid to New York State to make the filing. The process for a food truck is the same for any other food business, and that would be in addition to making sure you have the appropriate DMV registration for the food truck. I don't know, again, Laura, maybe your folks know whether there's any, I know certain trucks need to have, like if you were in interstate commerce, there are certain trucks that have to be registered federally. I'm not sure if that's the case with local food trucks that don't travel out of state, but they would need a commercial DMV classification. And again, I won't take time now, but I will point you to the good folks at the commissary for those answers. And as soon as I get a food truck client, I'll know the answer to that, and we'll be able to give it in a future talk. So I always talk, someone asked about the total cost to do an LLC. So I normally tell folks to plan on $700 in out-of-pocket disbursements. These are going to be the same whether you do this through VLSP and get your legal services for free. The VLSP does not cover any of these out-of-pocket costs. So whether it's VLSP or an outside attorney, the out-of-pocket cost should be around $700. If you qualify for VLSP, you'll get the legal services piece for free. We would normally charge around $800 for a single member LLC as legal fees. In addition, it will be more for a multi-member LLC because a multi-member LLC operating agreement has to have more in-depth provisions that deal with the relationship between those two owners. And if you'll let me, I'll spend a little time later on when we talk about LLCs, talking about the scope of a LLC operating agreement. The reason that we advocate a corporation is that it provides to the owner a shield from all of the debts, liabilities, and obligations of the corporation. And it does so because it is a distinct legal entity, separate and apart from you as the owner or you and your fellow co-owners. A corporation is what we call a legal fiction. It does not exist except for the fact that New York State, as well as the other 50 states, have a state law creating this fiction called a corporation. And if you are going to reap the benefits of the corporation, you have to respect the corporate law and observe all of the corporate formalities. The corporate law requires that you operate through officers, directors, and employees. And that creates this pyramid structure. You have an owner or owners as the foundation of the pyramid. The shareholders then elect a board of directors who are in charge of setting the policies and procedures that the corporation is going to follow. And then the employees are the ones that carry out the day-to-day business in keeping with the strategies, the policies, and the procedures that are established by the board of directors. However, if you have a single shareholder entity, it is very likely that you are the sole shareholder, the sole director, the sole officer, and the sole employee. So you take that pyramid and you smash it down to a pancake. Yet, if you have all of those things, you are in fact respecting the corporate structure. And as I just discussed briefly earlier, you need to make sure that you have a corporate checking account in the name of the corporation, and that any revenues of the corporation are paid through, are deposited into that account, and the expenses of the corporation are paid through the account. The reason that you want to make sure that you respect all of these corporate formalities is because there is a theory of the law called piercing the corporate veil. And in layman's terms, what it means is that if you, the owner, haven't observed all of these formalities and respected the corporate form, then I, an injured plaintiff, don't have to respect the corporate form either. And I can look to you as the owner for any debts, liabilities, or obligations. And and so if you want to avoid piercing the corporate veil, then you will make sure that you strictly observe these corporate formalities. Someone asks if you, about the time frame. You can legally operate your LLC from the day the LLC is filed in New York State. You get 120 days to complete your 6-week publication. So you'll see there is a little bit of extra time there because 120 days is greater than 6 weeks. But what the law says is your right to operate is suspended if you haven't filed your certificate of publication within 120 days. And actually, there's no elaboration in the statute, and nobody actually knows what suspend the right to operate means, but I always say it can't be a good thing. The cost of formation of a corporation, so the filing fee is exactly the same as a filing fee for an LLC. It's about $225. A corporation doesn't have the publication requirement that a LLC has. So that piece is a little less expensive, but the formalities of a corporation are a little more complicated, and they're particularly for a single member. So while you save the costs of formation up front, you will have to have a federal tax return every year. So what you save up front will cost you over time, because there will be a cost to your accountant for preparation of an annual tax return. And at the end of your business life cycle, you can dispose of the business of a corporation either by sale of assets or by sale of stock. A corporation can be taxed one of 2 ways. I'm going to have to move quickly to make my 1 hour. One of 2 ways. A C corporation, which is a taxable entity in and of itself. A C corporation files a tax return, and it has to file taxes on its corporate profits. Now, under the tax bill that was signed in the beginning of the Trump administration, currently those corporate taxes are at a very low rate of only 20%. However, if you're going to then get the money out as dividends, there's another 20%. So you have to work with your accountant to figure out whether a C corporation is the most tax efficient vehicle. In most cases, it is not. But you can eliminate the double taxation through bonus program to paying a bonus to you as the owner. An S corporation is a corporation that has filed a special document with the state and federal tax authorities to say, don't make me a taxable entity. For tax purposes, treat me as a flow-through entity. And I always get asked this question, so I'll answer it now. This is only a tax decision. Whether you choose to be taxed as a C corporation or an S corporation, you are still the same entity, and it is the same filing with New York State. It is only how you are taxed at the federal or state level. However, not all corporations can file as for S election flow-through treatment. There has to be less than 100 shareholders, which really isn't a problem for most. Where it does become a problem for some is that all shareholders of an S corporation have to be either US citizens or US green card holders. And no entities can be shareholders of an S corporation. So if you have foreign non-green card holders or entity shareholders, you cannot qualify to make a subchapter S election. And essentially, whether you're a C Corp or an S Corp, the costs of formation are the same. A limited liability company provides exactly the same shield from liability that a corporation does. So it is often the vehicle of choice when I'm talking to startup companies or early stage companies. A limited liability company in New York has to have a written operating agreement. And that would be one of the things your attorney or VLSP attorney would help you with. However, the New York LLC statute is incredibly flexible. It is there to create a backstop of a set of rules in case you don't have a written operating agreement, but the LLC statute has the flexibility in that in virtually every instance, the statute says, unless the operating agreement provides otherwise, here are the rules of the road applicable to your LLC. And so you essentially can draft the LLC to meet whatever the business terms are. As I said, if it's a single member LLC, the written operating agreement is easy. It says, I am the queen of this kingdom. I am in total rule. Every rule belongs to me for my decision, and any profits or what have you are only for me. The management of an LLC can be simple or complex. It can have both members, which are owners. Think of members the same as shareholders of a corporation, but they can also have managers. Managers are like a super duper board of directors and CEO all rolled into one. And the manager, the statutory capital M manager, can have whatever authority is granted in the operating agreement. However, the filing with the New York Secretary of State has to designate if there will be capital M managers. And I say capital M managers to distinguish from a general manager of your catering business who you might give some day-to-day operating authority to, but doesn't have any of the global decision-making authority for your LLC. As we just talked about, the costs of formation because of the publication are a bit higher, but you save it on taxes in the long run. And like a corporation, you can exit by either selling the assets or selling the ownership interests, which again are called membership interests in an LLC. For taxes, a limited liability company starts as a flow-through entity. And if it's a single member LLC, for tax purposes, but not liability purposes, the entity is a sole proprietorship. And so for tax purposes, a LLC with a single member is a Schedule C on the owner's tax return. I find it interesting because the information on a LLC operating agreement, on a LLC Schedule C, is exactly the same as the information that would go on a separate tax return for a corporation. But every accountant I know charges more because it's a separate tax return for a corporation. And that's why I said in a year or two, if you have to use a outside CPA or tax preparer, you will earn back in saved fees the cost of the tax return. In a multi-member LLC, it's a partnership for tax purposes. But if you have less than 5 members, you can actually do that through multiple Schedule Cs on the owner's tax returns. Once you get 5 or more members, you do have to file a partnership tax return, but it is what's called an information tax return. There is no tax to the LLC. The partnership tax return is used as the vehicle to flow through the information on the tax returns of the owners. Someone asks about the corporate pyramid. So that would be, with the most power are the shareholders. They are the owners. The shareholders elect a board of directors. The board of directors sets strategy, policy, procedures, and elects officers. And then the officers, in turn, either operate the business as officers or hire employees who then operate the business on that day-to-day basis. And someone else asks about a DBA in addition to the corporation. So if your business is in the same name as the corporation's name or the LLC's name, you do not need to make a separate DBA filing. But so if your business is Rainbow Catering LLC and you're doing business as Rainbow Catering, no need for a separate DBA filing. If, however, your LLC is Steve Gersz Enterprises and you are operating as Rainbow Catering, you do have to file a DBA. However, I caution you, unlike DBA for an individual or a partnership that is filed with the Monroe County Clerk, and it's pretty cheap and easy, if you are going to file a DBA for an LLC or a corporation, that is filed with the New York Secretary of State. There is a little larger filing fee, and it does have to be filed at the state level. And the state law for DBA says if you are going to operate under a DBA rather than your true name, you have to, so for example, if you were going to have a physical restaurant location or even a food truck, the law says technically you are supposed to post a copy of that DBA filing in your in each physical location, because it's supposed to give the general public the information they need to find out who it is they are supposed to sue if they are wronged by your business. The DBA is there for the protection of the general public. Another reason that I like LLCs for early stage businesses is that for a single member business or a multiple member where the only employees are the owners of the business, under the applicable employment law, members are not considered employees for withholding Social Security or disability or workers' compensation coverage. So if it was just a catering business and Irene and I were the only 2 owners and the only 2 employees or workers of the business, we would not have to register as for a to do withholding on our compensation. We would not have to register as an employer for New York workers' compensation or disability. But we would have to be mindful that our earnings are subject to what is called self-employment tax. Those of you that get a paycheck see that there is taken out for Social Security and Medicare withholding for out of your paycheck that is a contribution for for your piece of that. What you may or may not be aware of is that the employer has a matching contribution. So if there's $400 taken out of your paycheck for Social Security and Medicare, the employer makes a matching contribution for that. Self-employment tax that you are subject to is actually both halves. So in my example, $800. For employment matters, you have to carefully think about whether your worker is a employee or independent contractor. Both federal and state law is trending more and more and more toward having workers be treated as employees rather than independent contractors. To properly be an independent contractor, it would really have to be somebody that holds themselves out in doing that business and is doing it for multiple people, like a painter that you hire to paint the inside of your restaurant. But you can't just say your waiters and waitresses are independent contractors and put them on a 1099 so you don't have to go through all of the employment complications. And if you miscategorize, it becomes, again, your personal liability for the withholding that you would have done. I talked briefly about employment taxes and withholdings. These are the other category of trust fund taxes. And like unpaid sales taxes, if you don't do these things right, your entity is liable and you are personally liable. And this liability survives bankruptcy. They're in that special category. So it is really important that you make sure you do your employment registrations correctly and that you use a payroll company to both collect and remit all of these employment taxes correctly, and that you make sure you are registered with New York State for unemployment and disability, and you do these things correctly, because if you do not, you will be in a world of personal hurt that no entity can shield you from liability from. Quickly, for employment under New York law, all employees start out as employees at will. And that means that they can leave at any time with or without notice. That is codified in the Constitution when we outlawed slavery. Your employee can leave with or without notice, even though it is common courtesy to give a week or two notice. The employer has the same right to terminate with or without cause immediately and upon notice if the employer wishes. However, the employee has the additional restriction that the employee cannot terminate for a bad reason. And the employer termination things that they have to be mindful of are age discrimination, and that would, you have to be thinking about it for anybody over age 40, believe it or not, under applicable case law and regulation. Sex discrimination, you cannot discriminate against somebody just because they are a man or woman. And in New York, I'm pretty sure gender identity is in that box along with sex. and sexuality is in that box as well. You need to also can't discriminate because of religion or religious practices. And you can't discriminate because of a disability. You have to give reasonable accommodations for disability. You have to be careful that if you have an employment handbook, and I would encourage everybody that has employees to have an employment handbook, that you do not in your employee handbook inadvertently create a contract of employment, because contracts of employment can be written contracts the way you think of formulae, a document that both the employer and the employee signs, but an employment contract can be an interchange of emails, and it can be set out in a employment handbook. So be mindful of that. So don't inadvertently create a contract where you don't intend to.
So Steve, I just wanted to do a time check. We are just a couple of minutes to end the presentation in case that you would like to, I'll be adding resources to the chat so everybody
Yes, and Laura, are you going to, I am okay with you sending I'll send you afterwards, or you can create a PDF of this PowerPoint to send to the attendees.
Oh, great. Yes, that would be wonderful, because then we can post on our website both the recording and the
PowerPoint.
The PowerPoint. I also wanted to add, for those of everyone who's maybe not so familiar with our website, we do have a list of required permits and documents to become a legal food business. And I've been making edits as we go along because your information has been so helpful for me. So I'll be updating that, and that's another really good thing for people to look at as they're reviewing this information. I also wanted to add, if I can, because I know even for me, this has been, and I've gone through the process of creating an LLC because we had to do that for the commissary. This can be an overwhelming process, and it's a lot to take in. And just as a little pep talk, you only have to do it once, right? Once you do it, it's done. So for everyone who's feeling a little overwhelmed, stay the course. There are a lot of resources to help you. And once it's done, it's done.
Okay. I will pass through the rest of this just because of time. And
I will say we did have, and Steve, I know you're very busy. We do technically have until 1:30 is what we had on the Zoom. So, but if you have to go, we understand. But
no,
I think everyone's expectation is that they do have until 1:30.
Okay. So I'll keep going then. I don't know why I had it in my calendar till 1, but
I think the announcement was from 12 to 1 p.m. That's why. I am sorry.
Yep. So those that want to stick on, and I will. So I just can't reiterate enough the importance of making sure you understand your trust fund obligations and you get those paid. Again, sales tax and employment taxes. And I understand, I've heard from I've done this talk on and off for 30 years now to different entrepreneurs. And I get into dialogue with them, and I understand, I know what happens. You're running your business, and the food supplier says, if you don't catch up on my bill, I'm not delivering anymore. And you have X dollars in your account, and your choice is pay the food supplier or close tomorrow, or I just know things are going to turn around, and I'm just going to skip paying the trust fund taxes because the things are going to turn around and I'll catch up. And if you get in that box, that is the time you have to really look and say, can I really turn this around? Do I have more money that I'm willing to invest in my business, until we get to the turnaround point? And how realistic is it we're going to get to this turnaround point? And it goes back to what I glossed over very early on about business plan. Your business plan should have included a 12-month cash flow so that you understood going in how much money you needed to have available to get through the first 12 months of your business. And if you don't have those resources available to you on day one, then it's probably appropriate to defer and delay starting your business until you have that. Because failure is most likely inevitable unless you can get through the first 12 months. And Laura, you probably know the statistics better than me, but you know, restaurants and food businesses have probably one of the highest failure rates of any business. And you know, you need to be able to make sure you can get through that first 12 months.
Absolutely. And as a little plug for the commissary with that, that's one of the beautiful things about the commissary is that you can start there so that you're defraying costs for your rent and any equipment costs so that you can really focus on setting yourself up for success as a legal business and not being overwhelmed by all those compounding costs at the beginning.
So there's a number of places you can think about for business financing. Bootstrapping is used a lot. You know, it's your own equity, your personal sweat equity. You know, I long ago had a client that started a health club, and they took the raw space, and he and his brother built the space out rather than hiring a construction company to do it. Sweat equity. For your food business, if it's catering or packaged food of some type, you know, rather than having to buy the equipment and set up in a leased location and incur the lease costs, or set up in your basement, and if that's even allowed by zoning, you know, you have resources available through the commissary to help you defer until your business gets big enough that you can set up your own manufacturing space. You have for food product businesses, and you know, I think even perhaps a restaurant type business. You know, you have Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and these other sites. So, you know, you can say, you know, for a $25 contribution, you'll get the, you know, 2 bottles of Steve's famous barbecue sauce. And, you know, if that costs you $2 or $3 to make that, you know, you use the difference as your part of your startup capital. I think I saw, but I'm not positive, I don't even know, they ultimately opened the Cat Cafe, and they were part of the Venture Jobs Kitchen. I think they did some kind of a gift certificate thing to help raise some startup capital. So you can do it for restaurants with, you know, gift cards too. So it's a creative way to raise capital. There are some micro lending programs I've put on. Kiva, which is a matching program, I think they do $5,000 or $10,000 loans, but you have to match it in fundraising from friends and family. Venture Jobs Foundation, I sit on the board of that. There's a micro lending program through the Venture Jobs Foundation you can look at. I talked a bit about why it's important to befriend the bank manager. not for total brand new startups. It's unlikely you're going to be able to qualify for any kind of a bank loan, even an SBA guaranteed bank loan. But, you know, for the, let's say, a food product business that you start up in the commissary, it's an operating business with revenue. When you're ready to graduate and create your own small manufacturing facility, that could be the time where you very well might qualify for a Small Business Administration guaranteed loan to fund that move out of the commissary. And as I said, befriending the bank loan officer, he or she will walk you through the process a lot easier than just walking in cold. There is equity capital raise up. It's complicated in terms of federal and state securities law compliance, but there are some crowdfunding sources available on the internet. I have not had a client done any crowdfunding equity raise ups. So I'm not really familiar how that works, but I know it's out there for you to look at. I would just be careful about any fundraising outfit that's going to require you to put money up front. Most of them, I think, are likely a scam and don't deliver. So think about whether that's a good place to put your upfront money. I've listed out the different types of IP here. Know-how and trade secrets are not filed anywhere. They are valuable to you. They are valuable to you in your business. So, if your business is chocolate chip cookies and you have some secret ingredient, whether it's adding cinnamon or pie spice or I don't know, agave or whatever else, whatever your secret ingredient in that makes your cookies delicious, that's your know-how or your trade secret. Know-how might also be, how you mix your product together to get the consistency that you like. The last three things are protectable items that are protectable through filing. They get special filing at the federal level. They can be patents. It's probably unlikely that any food product is patentable or not. Maybe some of these new vegan things out there, like Impossible Burgers or the like, I don't know whether they are patented, frankly, or not. Never looked and, had never had occasion to look, but that kind of new thing might be. Patents typically protect a business process, not a business idea. So I like to say, no one can protect the idea of a word processing program, or in this case, a totally vegan burger. What they can protect is the way you produce your particular vegan burger. Copyrights are different. Copyrights protect artistic expressions, so you can protect your logo if you wish through copyright protection. That is the artistic embodiment of your logo. Your logo can also be protected through trademark, which is a protection for the words. The word Kodak is a protectable trademark for both a business and for products. Copyrights going back also protect works of art like novels, short stories, poetry, music. Every time you download off the internet without paying the appropriate licensing fee, a song, from a named artist, you are actually violating that artist's copyright. It is not actually free. The world only thinks it's free because you can download it off of a peer-to-peer sharing network, but you could have liability. Trademarks, trade names, service marks, these are protectable by filing, and you do get special protection. If trademarks can be protected on the state level for those that are only thinking about a regional business that might incorporate different parts of New York State, but can be protectable on the federal level. If you were going to sell your product nationally, if that was your ultimate goal, whether it's a barbecue sauce, a cookie, whatever, then you're going to want to seriously consider federal trademark protection. Let's see, there's a handful of questions. No, just information there. Patents, copyrights, trademarks are all filed in the Federal Patent and Trademark Office. You can do your own rudimentary searches at the Patent and Trademark Office for trademark names. It's not a very good search tool because it only searches for exact names. We use an outside commercial database for federal trademark searches that is, first of all, more comprehensive, but the most important thing it does is do a phonetic search. And if you think about the English language, you know, the word floors can be spelled the traditional way, but don't think that you've all of a sudden created a protectable trademark because you added a Z at the end and you've had it FLORZ. Because for federal trademark purposes, the government, the PTO, is looking ultimately phonetically. So clients come to me and they think the trademark is to protect their business, but that is actually not the purpose of federal trademark law. The purpose of federal trademark law is to protect the consumer. And it is to protect the consumer so that if they go to someplace and they get a McDonald's hamburger, they know it is coming from the McDonald's Corporation. Or if they buy an Apple computer, that it is actually coming from Apple Computers and not from some third-party gray market source. And so that's why ultimately trademark searching has to be done phonetically. And we have to use an outside service to do that. The other things the outside services do is they check all 50 state trademark databases. As I said, you can file for your local business in New York State and you are protected in New York State. You're not protected outside of New York State. If somebody later comes along and files a federal trademark in exactly the same name as your New York State trademark, you may continue to use it in what the law calls your trading area. So if you were doing business in Monroe, Ontario, and Genesee counties at the time the federal trademark was granted, you can continue in perpetuity to do business in those counties, but you can no longer expand to Onondaga County or Erie County, even though it's in New York State. So that's why if you have designs of going national with this business, you need to think about federal trademark protection. I also want you to think about who owns the IP. If you hire an independent contractor graphic designer to create your logo, and this is one of the great examples of, somebody that's doing this graphic design business for hundreds of companies out there, they probably best fit the definition of what properly is a independent contractor. You might think because you paid the person for it, you own it, but unless you have documentation that says upon payment in full, you own that graphic design, believe it or not, you co-own it together with the artist that designed it. So you're going to want to make sure that that you own this IP. And for food businesses, again, think about it for recipes. You hire a chef to create recipes for pasta sauce or some veal dish or whatever it is you're going to use in your catering business. You better make sure the documentation with the chef you hired to do this says that you own these recipes at the end. Recipes can be protected through copyright. They are an artistic expression. So that's why you can't just borrow in whole cloth a recipe that Emerald published in one of his cookbooks. You can use it as a base and tweak it in your own way, because there's only so many ways one can make gumbo. So I'm not saying you can no longer make gumbo because it's in Emerald's cookbook, but you have to do it your own way, even if some large percentage of the recipe is Emerald's recipe. Let's see what else. So do you pay publishing fees or, oh, this is LLC publishing. So as I said, for many, many years, our paralegals dealt directly with the publishing companies. And Monroe County, if you're in Monroe County, but the county clerks publish a list of which are the acceptable entities to publish in. And as I said, one has to be daily and one has to be weekly. And last I knew, they have to be physical publications, not just online publications. So we used to use city newspaper as our go-to weekly, but it's no longer published in paper weekly. So I have no idea, frankly. I should look to see who they use, but you have to go in and it's county by county. If you created your LLC and you designated Genesee County, you would have to find out from the Genesee County clerk who where the appropriate newspapers are. We used to coordinate it ourselves. The statute says exactly what has to be in the publication. And we would send the actual notice to the newspaper. They would type lay it out. They would say, oh, for this newspaper at this, for your 6 weekly publications, based on the column inches, you have to pay us $212.46. And the paralegal would coordinate all that, get a certificate of publication, an affidavit of publication, I should say, from the newspaper, and then prepare a certificate of publication to file with New York State. It's a process. It has to be done correctly. And as I said, there are a bunch of companies out there that do it, because every time we create an LLC for one of our clients, I inevitably get an email or a call from my client that says, I got 2 or 3 of these letters offering for us to publish for you. What should I do with them? And I say, we're already taking care of it. Put them in the garbage. So, or I should say recycle bin. I have a number of resources, and I urge you, if you're creating your business plan, use those resources available to you. I have some federal and state resources here, but Laura gets paid for helping businesses like yours. So use her as a resource. And then, there are both these state and these local resources that are available to you. The one thing I'd add, for almost every business, there is some kind of business association, whether it's the Association of Catering Companies, the National Restaurant Association, there are state associations. Often there are amazing resources available for the cost of joining the association. And many of them have startup guides and templates and forms and what have you. So go ahead and look at the cost of joining those associations and decide whether the benefit is the cost. A great free public library, I point to a great free public resource I point to all the time is the Business Center at the Rundell Public Library. One of my VLSP clients that Irene is familiar with, that I'm working on, used the business folks at the Rundell Library for tons of information that was helpful to them in creating their business plan. And so, and again, it's free to you because we all pay for it in our state and Monroe County taxes. With that, I'll see, are there any other questions about your business? I think I addressed all of them from the chat room. Great. So I thank you. If you don't, first of all, if you qualify for VLSP micro entrepreneur services, I think that's great. I can tell you, I and my colleagues that primarily practice in the corporate transactional law, we are looking for opportunities to help businesses like yours. Early on in my career, I did other VLSP cases, divorces and like, and I always felt like I was one step away from committing malpractice because it wasn't my area of the law. But this lets I and my colleagues practice in the area we know it like the back of our hand, and lets us give back to the profession through doing pro bono services. And so I'll urge you to do that. If you don't qualify because your income is too high, then I would be happy to help out. And there are numerous other qualified business attorneys in Monroe County that would be equally adept at helping you. Let's see, one more. Oh, there's a evaluation form in the chat, and it's a quick and easy Google Docs form. So if you provide comment on the program, it will help both Irene and Laura create better programs in the future. All right. With that, I thank you for your time and attention, and I hope you got some valuable insights and information to put your business on the right path. And I look forward to patronizing your various food businesses in the future.
Wonderful.
Steve, thank you so, so much. Just a reminder to everybody that the PowerPoint and the recording will be up on our website on the workshops tab, along with a bunch of other information on our join page for permits and documents, which I'm going to update thanks to Steve's great insight today.
Great.
And thank you everybody for attending today. Thank you again, Steve, for this wonderful and informative information. I added the resources that Steve shared in the chat. So take an opportunity to copy that and put it in your own documents, or take a picture of it and save it. If you have any other questions, you're free to send us an email. You can email Steve, or you can email me. And if you're looking for more information about what can you do to obtain our services for the LLC, that's what you would like to do, please do not hesitate to contact us. We can assess your specific situation, and we're here to support you.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Steve. Bye,
Yep.
everybody.
Bye.